Hey everyone, it's Vice. Welcome to Making Wrestling Work. We're peeling back the curtain one more time. Not going to waste time at all. Help me welcome a special guest here. A good friend of mine. Been working with him for a while, and a lot of you know him. If you don't, you're about to. Please welcome Two Scoops, Tommy Test. Hey Tommy, how's it going, man?
Good, brother. How are you doing, Kevin?
Not bad, not bad. Ready to talk the industry, talk to business, talk about what you know, and you know this industry pretty well. You've done pretty well for yourself. First of all, I just want to say congratulations, especially such a short time, right? Compared to a lot of other people, only a few years, less than a few years, I believe, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've had hurdles. Started training in 2019, and my tryout was June 2019. So I went to the Arizona Pro Wrestling Training Center, where everything is tryout basis. You can't just join. Um, and then I was on the right track, and then early 2020, as we all know, world shuts down. So right before I'm about to have my first match, the wrestling school shuts down, gyms shut down, venues aren't doing people, not doing crowds. So that I didn't have my official debut until August, September of 2021. That was, I believe, August. Yeah, it was August. And I was booked in September. And then October of 2021, I was actually ejected from a vehicle, 20 or 32 stitches across my face, broke a couple bones, swallowed my front teeth. So that actually set me back again. So 8 months after that, I made my re-debut. And since then, it's been a growing process. The past 2 years, since I moved to Albuquerque from Phoenix, I've been wrestling a whole lot. I've had several 7, 8 match weekends, 4 match weekends, 3 match weekends. Um, I've had the last year, I only had 6 weekends off from wrestling that were by choice. And then the year before, I took 4 weekends off from wrestling, and those were by choice. That's how busy my schedule has been.
That is one heck of a journey. So from New Mexico, didn't get a chance to start in New Mexico though, because the world shut down, pandemic kind of messed everybody up. Coming back from an incident like that, and that's very surprising that somebody would come from an incident like that and then go into an occupation that is as physical and demanding as pro wrestling. But you made yourself out in Arizona, come back home, but all the while just running roughshod in all sorts of places. Let's see. So stop me if I miss something. So Phoenix Championship Wrestling, eventually Rocky Mountain Pro. That's a good one. And then of course Duke City Championship Wrestling in NWA, New Mexico. There's also Phase One Pro here in Albuquerque. I know I'm missing some.
A whole lot, yes.
But that's a good bit, for somebody such as yourself, for sure. And a career that is so far no pattern. I think that's pretty cool because I look at
I'm very selective. Yeah, I'm very selective of where I go and what I do. I say no a lot more than I say yes.
And that says something because some people aren't picky and sometimes regret it. And they're like, why did I go here? But pro wrestling as a whole, you're doing really well. You came up with this persona for yourself. Two Scoops.
I did.
Can we dive into that, man? What is a lot of people confused what that means? So hopefully you can clear the record.
Yeah, actually, I didn't come up with it. Crowd came up with it. It was never my idea to just have a gimmick, be a gimmick guy. It happened naturally. I was a heel. So my first 10 matches, I was a bad guy. I got the name Tommy Test from my trainer Dom Vitale. And that came from, our fundamentals came first. So it was 500 squats daily. It was running the ropes for 3 minutes at a time without stopping. It was brutal workouts. I'm talking even the rolls, the basic rolls, they made them in a way to where they weren't fun. It was all continuous and that would be perfect. And it was in and out, roll, in and out, in and out. So even the basic fundamentals, you're doing that on jolly legs. sucked, to be honest. So it got to the point when we're all training hard, and we're doing this 3 times a week for no reward in sight in a, it seems like 115-degree garage every day, So I'm running the ropes back and forth as hard as I can, and Dom, he kind of just, yo, Tommy Test, yeah, Tommy Test. That's where that kind of started. So when I first got booked, I said, hey, what's your name? And Dom was the guy. I was like, Tommy Test. And he's the one that kind of went up there. So I was a heel at first. Tommy Test was 20, 21 years old. He was angry. He wanted to fight people. He liked to brawl. That was more of his style, was a brawler. And then I was in a feud with a wrestler out in Arizona named Metanoia. And Metanoia's character, he was a raver. And that wasn't really a character, because he actually did go party with the fans. And he brought a lot of fans with him because he had a lot of friends. And we used to wrestle at the Endgame Bar once a month on a Thursday night for our student show. And I was in a feud with him, and he had a bunch of people. So I was working at a gym at the time, and I have my protein bottle with 2 scoops of protein. And I get out of the truck, and I tell the girl I was with, I said, hey, record this. It was a 1-shot, 50 seconds. I said, hey, man, I know you're out there partying with the fans. I know they love you, having a good time, while you're too busy, distracted, being, Mr. Nice Guy. I'm drinking my 2 scoops on my way to go kick your butt. I didn't say that in the promo. But I got to the venue, and everyone was like, oh, that was cool. 2 scoops. Like, from when I first walked in, and I got from everybody 2 scoops, 2 scoops. And I have a pretty good background in high school wrestling, amateur wrestling, and I played lots of sports growing up. So I shot a double leg takedown on him in the beginning of the match. Went 2, and the whole crowd reacted 2. And then this happened where I didn't even put 2 and 2 together. I go 2 scoops, and the crowd echoes it back. So I pick him up for a scoop slam, and I said, you guys want a scoop? Yeah. And I'm a bad guy, so I give him the first scoop. You want a second scoop? Yeah. Too bad you don't get him. I just toss him aside. So the first time I ever did it, I didn't even get the 2 scoop slabs. And then about 2 weeks later, maybe a weekend after that, it was my 22nd birthday, and it was up in Los Angeles, in Long Beach. So BCW Ultra, which is one of the top indies, right, in the entire almost world. That's where, I hate to name drop, but Kevin Cross, Jacob Fatu, Pentagon, that's where they got their main jump. So that's a really big show for me to be on. And I went around 7 times, set up the ring, set up the lights. We worked from 10 a.m. to 11 p.m. with a hope to just be looked at, right? Expect nothing and give everything, right? So I went around 7 times, and this 7th time, finally, after doing security outside during the shows and driving 6 hours just to help, and then 6 hours back, I got pulled aside. I said, hey, Tommy, do you have your gear tonight? Yeah, of course. Yeah, I do. That's all of our dreams. I've been consistent enough. They said, okay, get suited up. You're our pre-show match, opening match. You have 6 minutes, whatever, 5 minutes. Don't mess up. You're the good guy. Oh, okay. I've never worked face ever. And I had just got a singlet, a plain black singlet, and all it said was 2 scoops in the back. On the front, Tommy says the back said 2 scoops. Very plain black singlet. That's all I had. So it was my first time ever wearing it as well. So it was a lot of firsts, and I was primarily a tag team wrestler. So not only was it my first time doing singles, it was my first time doing singles as a face. And so I'm in the match. Red Williams is the guy's name. We lock up. Everything in the shoulder. He goes to the shoulder tackle. I don't go. I go 2 scoops. 700 people echo back. 2 scoops. Oh, we have something here. Lock up again. Boom. I give him the shoulder tackle. 2 scoops. Everyone, the whole crowd. 2 scoops echoes it right back. Match goes on. He's on me. I do a kick out, and I go 2 scoops. And it's almost like the too sweet thing. That's a very smart, independent crowd. So for the remainder of the night, every single 2 count was 2 scoops. And the main event was Psycho Clown versus Jacob Fatu. So even for that match, they're doing the 2 scoops. And I get back, and I'm talking to the guys, and they're like, dude, that's awesome. Something's working. So that was the birth of the 2 scoops right there. Was all by accident. kind of, and it just worked out perfectly. And since then, I've added and taken away, and you know, grew from that.
Well, I mean, you discover you experience something that a lot of wrestlers end up finding out. They don't plan on it. It's that you take an inch, the crowd takes a mile, and sometimes the combination of things it just happens. You know, that crowd is just as responsible for helping a wrestler create himself as the wrestler is.
Mm-hmm.
That's an incredible feeling. Like I can't imagine that that's something you'll ever forget or just take for granted.
Yeah, and the thing is, there's so many different. I'm sorry, Kevin. There's so many different variations of crowds. I mean, Ultra is a perfect example of a very smart crowd. They're wrestling fans. They love wrestling. They see top quality wrestling. So if you mess up, they'll let you know. If they like you, they'll let you know. But like Phoenix Championship Wrestling is an example. That's a family-oriented crowd. If you want them to cheer for you, you have to work for that. If you want them to boo you, you have to do it, but in a different kind of manner than that. You have to do stuff that they will pick up that the smart crowd won't pick up. And then at Duke City and New Mexico, there's about 30 people that care about wrestling, and the rest of the people are drunk or there for a party on Central, and then the remainder 70 people are my family. So, that's like a very unique crowd where I just put my finger up and the building explodes. So you got to kind of find out which audience is which. And I've been honestly fortunate enough to be in Chicago, be in Illinois, be in Iowa, be in Salt Lake City, and the crowd react the same way as if they would in Phoenix or in Albuquerque. So that's really cool.
And you're experiencing a lot of different styles of crowds, different versions of what that fan base can be, not to mention the locker room itself. You're going from place to place. You started out not at home, and then you make it back home. What's the biggest difference for you there?
So Phoenix
shows and the crowds and everything.
Oh yeah, everything. So from the root, these are egg whites and the 2 scoops. It doesn't taste too good. I should have thrown a second banana in there. So I need to down it, but it's kind of. I chug these. Let me just.
ABG, always be gaining.
Sorry about that. So now in Arizona, the culture is very different. So professional wrestling in New Mexico was at one time very big. In the 70s, and then the commission came, and then early 2000s, 2010s, very big. That's when I was introduced to it. Awesome shows. We all know DWO. That was, I'm pretty sure we first officially met way back when. Phenomenal shows. Some of the best memories of my life. Some of the best memories for a lot of people's life. Everyone has a Hobo Wing story, right? Oh, everyone has their first time going to do WO. So in 2019, they had DW at their last show. I actually moved to Arizona that same weekend. So I was watching on my phone, laying on an air mattress by myself in an apartment, dead beat after my tryout, watching that show, watching the highlights, watching Snapchat stories from my friends. So that was really an awesome experience. But after that was it. Pro wrestling in New Mexico was killed, dead by the commission, suffocated down. So I honestly went into training in Arizona with the thoughts of, I don't think I'll ever wrestle in New Mexico, but I had one big goal to bring a show, whether it be my hometown or Albuquerque. My goal was to at least do one show for the people I love, right? And I come from a really small town, so I wanted to eventually get trained, get good enough, and bring one show to New Mexico, one more show. That was my end-all, be-all goal. One of my 4 goals when I first started. And I've been fortunate enough to accomplish that without even, and it came to me, which was even better. I didn't go to them, they came to me for that. So the biggest difference is out there, it's so much more competitive. There's no commission in Arizona. So there is layers, there's levels, right? So I worked for Phoenix Championship Wrestling. That's my primary group. I stay exclusive to them. So if you want to see me, you're paying the $40 ticket to come see me for PCWAZ. Why would I'm not going to say lower my levels, but almost not insult the crowd and say, hey, I can wrestle over here in town for $15 a ticket, but that almost devalues me. If you can see me anywhere, why would you pay the 40 here if you can see me here for 10? So that's kind of my thought process around that. And don't get me wrong, I've worked for multiple companies in Arizona. I mean, Rockstar Wrestling in downtown Phoenix and Tucson. I love those crowds. I worked for Draco's Lucha promotion. I've done Lucha Vaz. And those are, I mean, they're honestly a week or 2 weeks in advance, sometimes 3 days in advance. Hey, Scoops, here's, I could offer you $250 if you come. Sure. That's pretty much how that goes. But as far as staying exclusive, it's always been Phoenix Championship Wrestling. But the big differences between here and there is it's so much competitive over there. If you want a spot on that top show, you can't miss a training. You have to you have to sell tickets, you have to be a draw, you have to be an asset to that team, an asset to that show. And it's very much like you have to be selected. If not, there's like tiers. Like that's what I'm trying to say. Over here, it's just so special because we don't know if it's going to be the last one. We don't know if we didn't even know it was coming back. So I cherish New Mexico wrestling. I treat every match in New Mexico like WrestleMania. The crowd will react, whether it be Phase 1 or Duke City. Off the ropes, I've wrestled the main event over there as well. They'll react to a shoulder tackle. They appreciate it. We're a fight city. They love that. They love the contact. They love the ring, the atmosphere. And Phoenix, like over here, like every show I've ever worked in Albuquerque has a bar. There's alcohol at every show I've ever done. In New Mexico. In Arizona, there's no bar for PCW. It's a family show. Absolutely no cussing, absolutely no alcohol, and we're still drawing 1,500, 2,000 people, 700 on a bad night. And those are like, it's unheard of, but that's kind of like the biggest difference is you really have to bring it. Compared to over here, it comes to you, if that makes sense.
Fair enough.
For me anyway, that's my perspective.
Right. But it was enough to move back home, right? You wanted absolutely to be a part of things here.
Yes, I know. It wasn't the main factor where I moved home, but it worked out perfectly. Honestly, moving home was back to, I'm not from Albuquerque. Moving to Albuquerque was a big blessing because I'm midline. I'll wrestle in West Texas every month. I can get there in 5-6 hours. I wrestle in Denver every month. I can get there in 5-6 hours. I wrestle in Phoenix twice a month. I can get there 5-6 hours. I'm kind of in a middle spot. Also, my friends from Colorado, if they're going to Phoenix, they'll stop here. My friends from Phoenix, if they want to wrestle in Denver, we'll stop here. And we all stay here at my place, and we kind of use it as a middle ground. So we're not driving 16, 12 hours. We're breaking it up 8 and 8, 6 and 6. And that helps everyone, right?
Ends up kind of a hub.
It really is
at that point.
And then not only that, but we get wrestling here sometimes 2 or 3 times a month, but for sure once a month. Like, how awesome is that? Like, a reoccurring show in New Mexico is a dream come true. I never thought we would have it, and now that I have it, it's amazing. It's a dream come true, really.
Yeah. So were you a wrestling fan before you actually got into wrestling?
Fun fact, my first word, you could ask my mom on this one. One of my first words was Guy, which I called my brother Guy, and then The Rock. Everything was The Rock. Every action figure was The Rock. Everyone on TV was The Rock. So yeah, I biggest of all fans, and then I'm the youngest of 3 boys. So I was hand-me-down action figures, wrestling toys, T-shirts, but also I was, getting the test dummy. I would take all the moves. We'd wrestle off the couch, and I would be taking pedigrees at 4, 5, 6, 7 years old. But I'm also jumping off the couch doing frog splashes. That being said, I grew up on a farm, so we did not have internet till I was over 18. I was watching VHS tapes and DVDs, all of wrestling. That was my main source of entertainment. I had a handful of DVDs. Bound for Glory 2006 TNA. I had the Rise and Fall of ECW with 3CW One Night Stand. I had to watch those things on a loop. That was what I watched. And then growing up, of course, every Monday, every Thursday, every Friday, Monday Night Raw, Friday Night SmackDown, TNA. And then New Mexico, how fortunate were we? Every Sundays, we'd get AAA. And if we're lucky, we'd get CMLL. And then I was a teenager, we got Lucha Underground. So I pretty much kept up with everything That was my favorite thing on earth. So yes, massive fan.
Not every time you see that. So some
Mhm.
people watch a wrestling show once and they're like, huh, I want to do that, but they haven't kept up with like the history. They have to start learning. If you know it, sometimes it's easier to get pulled into it and start understanding it very quickly, because you went on the rise very quickly in your career, and so you had all the knowledge and examples to kind of follow up on that. Did anybody kind of inspire you in how you do
Mhm.
things in the ring, how you do things
Yeah,
with your art, I should say?
for sure. I love that. I love the art. Yes. If you ever seen a Tommy Two Scoops match, he is a variation of probably four wrestlers. So he is definitely Samoa Joe and Tommy Dreamer had a baby.
Oof.
I mean, I bring that hardcore style. I love my hardcore matches. I do a lot of Samoa Joe stuff. I get that comparison quite a bit. But I was a former two sport college athlete, football, rugby, wrestling. I knew a whole lot of that. So I bring that athletic style. So that's going to kind of, obviously, I'm not an Olympic caliber athlete, but I like to bring that Kurt Angle aspect for the intensity. And then, you know, I'm a big comedy guy. So I'm a big Eric Young guy. I'm a big Eric Young fan. I'm a big Santino fan. I you asked if I steal stuff. I just do stuff that I think is funny. So I have a bunch of knowledge, yes, but Two Scoops isn't who I thought I would be. I had this whole other character idea that I've always kind of thought, but then I realized, like, hey, who I am is just what I think is funny and what I think works, and decently it works. Um, so yeah, and I would say I have a lot of Stone Cold tendencies. I watch a lot of Batista, so I like to sound kind of like Batista, even though I'm not 6'5" and jacked like him, but I could wrestle like that sometimes. Also the spine buster and the Batista bomb, I'll do those. But then I like to brawl. I would say brawling is my favorite style. So Stone Cold Steve Austin, I watch a whole lot of Stone Cold Steve Austin, and I get that comparison quite a bit as well. With the Two Scoops having a little bit of Stone Cold in him, so a hybrid. If you mix those 6-7 wrestlers there, like Samoa Joe, Tommy Dreamer, Kurt Angle, Eric Young, Batista, Stone Cold, you mix, that's what you get, and you could kind of let the imagination run wild with that one.
Right. So I actually wanted to share this story because, if you don't mind, because we talked about this before, we were doing a DCW show, and I think it was the first one you came to, the first one you got booked for, and you walk up to me and you said you recognized me.
Mm-hmm.
I felt so bad because I I didn't know where from, and you mentioned you saw me over in DWO way back when. Blew my mind because one, I was the guy like towards the back wearing his gloves because he thought he had a gimmick. That was dumb. I was just starting. What did I know? And you recognized me and said, I think you said like that was one of, if not your first show that you saw live.
Mm-hmm.
Is that about right?
So I watched my first ever live show was in 2007 when WWE came to the pit.
Okay.
Blew my mind, and I guess, but I mean, we sat way up high. In 2016, my first ever show was Day of Destiny 9. That was Jeff Jarrett, and that's a whole other story. Maybe we'll talk about it today, where just like dream come true, magically moment where I didn't have social media and I was going through a lot. I was a freshman in college, very heartbroken, physically broken, going through a breakup. And my brothers were out of town. My mom was with her dad out of town. So I just called my dad and I was like, hey, Jeff Jarrett's in town and we're 90 minutes away. And like this weekend, like we should go. And he's like, yeah, maybe. Well, I just got Facebook and I won 2 free VIP tickets. So him and I just went, just us two. And that was my first ever time sitting front row. I never thought I'd be that close to a wrestling ring. I remember telling my dad as we got to our seats, I love this. The first match was Turbo Tony. At the time, it was Tony Fletcher was his wrestling name. Tony Fletcher versus Johnny Swole. opening match, dark match, and I still have that match on my YouTube saved. It's such a good match. But I remember watching it and thinking, wow, this is all I want to do. And as soon as the match is over, I told my dad, I'm going to do this. And he looks at me and says, you're about their size. You get a little bit of muscle. And yeah, you're about as tall as Johnny Swole. And you kind of look like your body's a Turbo Tony. And yeah, I think so. Like, I think you could probably try this. Yeah. He was fully supportive. And that was the first ever show. And since I did not miss one, unless I was playing a rugby game or something out of state. There was several times where I would do the game, coach a game, come watch the wrestling shows. My brother, he actually ditched his college graduation ceremony to come see Tommy Dreamer versus Hobo Hank. That's how much wrestling meant to us.
That's awesome. I love hearing the history of that because you came full circle eventually. You said one of the first matches was Tony, Turbo Tony, now known Turbo Tony, possibly.
Possibly.
But I mean, that led you into forming a tag team with the very man that like you saw right there at the beginning of the show. That those connections you formed through eventuality, and that not everybody gets that because you have to have a real good personality about you, real good professionalism about you for people to really recognize that and like, okay, let's do this. I think that's great. And then you get into the tag team stuff. You've done singles matches, you've done tag matches, and you've kind of, double dipped in, not double dipped, but like gone back and forth, different kinds, depending on where you're at. Is there a preference? Because there's a lot of intensity that you bring to either, but do you have a favorite?
It's hard to say. I treat every match like WrestleMania, especially in New Mexico, I'd say. Not that I treat any other match differently. Every match is so much different. I will say, when I first came to Albuquerque, I was a singles competitor. I had no aspiration to be a tag team wrestler. And in Phoenix, I would just put in a tag team. So I was actually a tag team champion for Phoenix Championship Wrestling when I first made my debut in Arizona. So I was still playing with it. In Arizona, they take tag team wrestling so serious, specifically in PCWAZ, that it is so much harder to be a tag wrestler than a singles wrestler. And I heard this from the mouth of so many wrestlers in New Mexico, like, oh, I have a tag match. It's like a night off. It's so much easier. It's like a night off. And they would just not respect tag team wrestling. They would not follow the rules. There's like a handset of rules, like the tag ropes, you both feet on the apron, have to go over the top, hand to hand, rules that would just not be applied. And I remember thinking to myself, maybe I'm wrong, but this is not tag team wrestling. So when it came to me, hey, I want you to do a tag match in New Mexico, I made it my goal to blow the crowd away because they deserve it. Show them a real tag team match, and do it in a way of like, hey, this looks nothing like what they've seen before. So I almost brought that Arizona style tag team to Arizona. So they said, hey, who do you want to wrestle next? The best tag team in Arizona, Pretty City Express. Bring them in. Yeah, we'll show you tag team. So I actually kind of take pride in changing the game of tag team wrestling in Arizona. What I prefer, I've had so fun doing like the street fight in NWA New Mexico with Tyler Copeland. I had a chairs match with Kevin Koa. And in my favorite match of all time, I wrestled Alden Fennell in my hometown in a street fight. They hurt a lot, but I think I like those a lot more. Just because, you said the aggression, the physicality. So maybe I'll say singles wrestler. Yeah, no, really, I have a really good pain tolerance. So I'll say singles wrestling.
Yeah,
but I love tag. I love tag still.
You do great in both. I actually just watched the other day that match between you and Tyler Copeland. So that's actually funny that you brought that up because you went out in the crowd. Sometimes that can be dangerous.
Yeah.
depends on the crowd. The crowd interaction with you is humongous. And so depending on where you go, you never know what you're going to get. You ever have, do you have any kind of story that sticks out in your mind, something with the crowd that you just kept with you?
A lot of positive. I'll start off with the one semi-negative. I was doing Comic-Con Fan Fusion in Phoenix. So it was like something like 16 shows in 3 days. We worked, I don't know, I worked over a dozen matches. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 3 shows a day, whatever the case. It was something like that, right? So much fun. So one of the best weekends of my life. While I was in a hardcore match. It was a Donkey Kong versus Luigi. And, I'm Donkey Kong over a hill and beating up Luigi. And we do some stuff outside, scoop stamps on the floor, grab the chair, blah, blah, blah. While the fan hops over and takes my banana, which I was using to beat up Luigi. And I'm like, hey, that's my banana. Take it back from him while he's trying to hide it from me. And as he bends over, he drops his vape. So I pick up his vape. So now we're at a standoff. I'm like, this for that. You want your vape back? Give my banana back. And I kind of outsmart him, and I take both of them. I'm a heel, so I throw his stuff back, and I hop in the ring. As I do it, the guy jumps on my leg. And at this point, I'm thinking, all right, I'm about to fight this guy who's attacking me from the back. Before anything happened, the security tackled him, everything. But that was my negative experience with the crowd, guys. That being said, guy was super cool. Actually signed his banana and his vape after the show. And, he stayed and it ended up being cool. He ended up buying a t-shirt. Everything was cool. Positive, man. There's so many times where I look to the crowd and getting my butt kicked, and I look and I lock eyes with, the kids. Well, I think probably the newest one is TNA. I had Tingley Coliseum chanting my name, and I got no offense in. I wanted to get up so bad, especially when they're screaming at me, "Get up!" That's awesome to have your hometown get behind you like that. My first time wrestling in Iowa, I didn't know anybody there, and the crowd almost accepted me to the point where after the show, Merrick comes up to me and is like, hey, here's my schedule. If you ever want to come back, they love you out here. Just let me know. I'll use you. Cool. Thank you. Lot of little things like that.
You've mentioned so much regarding your experiences in wrestling. I'm not hearing too much of your typical payoffs. It sounds like you're doing it just because you can. I haven't heard that the money's most important. I haven't heard the fame's most important. What is the most important part of this for you?
Progression in my career. I think the drive, the chase. I think that's what keeps me alive. I've chased this dream for so long, and it gives me purpose. And then when you get these little rewards, it's almost like fuel to keep going. It's like remember the old video game on like the iPhone tablets, like the racing game. What is it called? The hill climb racing. When you're going and you reach the gasoline and you go much longer. That's kind of what it feels like when you feel like you're on empty, and then all of a sudden you reach the next spot and you keep going again. I've seen so much adversity, whether it be pandemic, injury, broken collarbone. Well, dislocated collarbone, but still wrestling after that. I took I wrestled in the rain one time. I took a bad back body drop, and my lower back hurt for about 6 months, and I still did 500 squats every day. I never sat out once. I still lifted every day. I still wrestled every weekend, and like there was times where I didn't want to get out of bed, but I had to work at 5 a.m. And so I still got up at 4 a.m. to get to work, or at 3:30. So I do my 45-minute commute to work. And then I work from 5 to 5, and then I go straight to wrestling training, and then I go straight to my cardio, and then I get home at, 10:30, 11, and then I have to be up at 3:30. Like, and I still haven't sat down. That's been my life for so long that you almost like need that Saturday night pop to bring you back to life. You need that good match. Nothing's worse than working your butt off and having all these ideas and have a stinker of a match. So I work really hard. And when I wrestle like people that want to have easy night, sure, but you're going to feel me, you know? It's almost offensive when people don't want to put in the effort you want to. There's a time and a place in every card. Don't get me wrong. A two scoops match is very simple. You know, it's a shoulder tackle and a scoop slam and lots of character. Um, that being said, it's very rewarding when you get several opportunities, like the Ultra experience, you know, or being the longest reigning PCWG Tag Team Champion. At one point, I had a title belt in all four corners: Utah, Colorado, Arizona, New Mexico. Like that's a goal, right? That I had on my checklist. Um, yeah, there's a lot of little things that keep me going. And I will say, speaking about money, like for the past 2 years, going on 3 now, and it's very rare in the independents, I've been coming out ahead from wrestling every weekend. My merchandise moves really well to the point where I have a new shirt every Duke City show. I try to bring something new every Duke City as like a base, and then I sell from there. Um, Not that common. Wrestling is an expense most times, but I'm in a position where I kind of do make a little bit more money, but I give to everyone around me. You know, I'm typically the driver a lot of times, or if I'm not, I'm the guy in charge of the hotels. Tony, he's my traveling partner. He's the one that does the rentals, but if he does the rental, I'll do the hotel. That's the kind of deal we have kind of worked out. So it's like another example. We wrestled in Pahrump, Nevada. I had like 4 or 5 guys in a room with me. Um, Sin Bodie, he hooked us up with a hotel room in a casino. I threw $20 in the machine, slot machine, and I won $250. So what did I do? I paid for everything for the boys for the whole weekend because it wasn't my money; it was the casino money. You know, I bought everyone McDonald's and I paid for gas. There was, even a homeless guy got him some breakfast, and I was just in a good giving mood. And then ended up having a really good match in Pahrump, having 500 people do the 2 scoops, and like, okay, now this is something's right. Something's going on right. That was early in my career too. So, I believe in the golden rule. Treat people the way you like to be treated. Fred Slow, he's told me myself, he's like, I think you're too nice. And I feel like that's going to be your downfall in wrestling is you're too nice of a person. But it's really just like treat people the way they like to be treated. And I genuinely like have so many connections in so many places and areas, that I know people everywhere, and it kind of helps me in the long run too.
And then at the time of this recording, you have a match coming up for a championship match, chance to win the NWA New Mexico Duke City Championship Wrestling Heavyweight Championship. Now, whether it be that title or another title, the main card title, wherever you go, what does that mean to you? What would that change or make better or worse for you or for a man in your position?
Yeah. So I've never had a heavyweight championship. I've held mid card, I've held hardcore, I've held tag team. I've never once held a heavyweight championship. And that's literally, I mean, I'll probably get more into my goals. I've set myself up with 4 goals, past those 4. Another 4, past those 4. Third one, I literally have one last one. This last 2 weeks ago, when I did my stuff at TNA, got 2 goals out the way. I have one more, and it's to get a heavyweight championship. But to be NWA territory in New Mexico, where wrestling is everything, it's not even a dream come true. It's literally, it's more than that. That would be checking off my last list, and then I'll get another set of 4. But that's the only one I've been stumped on. I've done everything else I wanted to do, that I've broken down except for that. I've been told in Arizona, I've been told here that I'll never be a heavyweight champion, that I'm not ready for it, or there's too many in line. And that, which makes me work so much harder. I don't know what more I have to do. I spend $500 a month on new gear. I cut the promos. I'm doing 35 minutes of stairs fast every day to stay in cardio shape. I'm teaching younger. I'm setting up the rings. I'm tearing down the rings. I'm wrestling 3 to 4 times a week. and then doing shows. I got to figure out a way to finally bring one of those home. But yeah, to me, that would be my last checklist, and then of my goals. And at that point, I mean, I'd accomplished 3 sets of my goals in wrestling, and that would mean the world. You know, at that point, I would be complete in a way. You know.
Sorry, I didn't mean to make you speechless or anything.
No, really. I think about it every single day. It's been my vision quest since I was 14 years old of holding up a World Heavyweight Championship. Not to be dramatic, but I remember being 16 or 18 years old in my dorm room pretending of winning the DW World Heavyweight Championship. I remember doing Stairmasters at 19 years old in Arizona, 20 years old, thinking to myself, one day I'm going to be the PCW champion. You know, I remember watching Jacob Fatu do the backflip off the cage. Then Hammerstone won the belt and told myself, one day I'm going to be in Hammerstone's position to win the Ultra Championship. So, like, the vision quest is always there. But yeah, to beat the NWA is just phenomenal. You know, like, NWA is the root of, that's literally the evolution of wrestling. Historically, everything has stemmed from the NWA. So to be a territory champion,
agreed.
heavyweight champion that's, man, in history. You know, I represent my state for the NWA. Can't ask for anything more than that. Can't ask for anything more than that.
Agreed, man. It feels like we haven't talked long enough, but I would love to get you back to hear more of your stories very soon. But you know,
Part 2?
Oh yeah, dude. This is my show. We do whatever we want around here. Yeah, get the 2 scoop first. Second scoop. But I appreciate you coming on the show. Where can we find you online?
YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. On Facebook, it's Tommy Test Wrestling. On TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, it's all Tommy _ or Tommy _2 scoops _. That's Tommy, the number 2 scoops _. And then on YouTube, it's also Tommy Test Wrestling.
Well, that's so people can find you, man. And if you haven't found him yet, you should. Tommy, thank you so much for doing this. We hope I'm going to bring you on. We'll talk again soon. And then we'll see you wrestling around New Mexico, Arizona, and honestly, wherever you get wheels up to drive to. But thank you so much for joining me, man.
Thank you for having me, man.
And for everybody else, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you on the next one and see you around.